Good morning. This is a meeting of the Rother District Council Licensing and General Purposes Committee General Licensing Panel. The first item on the agenda is the appointment of the chairman. We have here Councillor Madeley on my left, Councillor Thomas on the right, and I am Councillor Mere. Councillors, who should be chair?
I'd like to propose Councillor Mere.
And seconded.
Thank you. The second item is to authorise me to sign the minutes of the meeting held on the 9th of July 2021 as a correct record. Do you, councillors, agree with that?
Agreed.
I shall sign. Where's I take it there are no apologies for absence.
None received, Chair.
Thank you. And we have nobody attending remotely. Disclosures of interest. To receive any disclosure by members of personal interest in matters on the agenda and the nature, etc., of any sort of interest under the Code of Conduct. Are there any declarations of interest?
None.
None.
All right. Agenda item number 5 is a street trading application for consent, and this involves Ticehurst, and it is to consider whether to grant consent to trade in the village square at Ticehurst, and this is a fish and chip van. I call on Mr. Parker Harding to explain this to us.
Thank you, Chairman. As members will recall that the Licensing and General Purposes Committee resolved to impose street trading controls in the centre of Ticehurst, which includes Village Square. Since that decision, we have received an application from Mr. Justin Scales, who operates a fish and chip van in Ticehurst Village Square, to continue to trade with regards to a consent to trade in the village square at Ticehurst. The options which are available to the panel are to grant the consent subject to the conditions set out in appendices B and C, to grant subject to other conditions, or to refuse the consent. Appendix B sets out the conditions which are standard to most street trading consents, and Appendix C sets out conditions which are applicable to this particular operation. As this Mr. Justice Scales has been operating this fish and chip van for some time, my recommendation is to grant the consent subject to the conditions, which will give Mr. Scales the opportunity to demonstrate until March 2023 that he can operate in accordance with these conditions and not cause any nuisance or difficulties for residents in the village square. And that's my recommendation, Chairman.
Thank you. Councillors, do you have any questions of Mr. Parker Harding? Councillor Madeley.
Thank you. Mr. Parker Harding, the last item on his list, will his generator be used to all mains electricity? And he said a run silent generator. I've never heard of silent generator. Perhaps that's right. Perhaps that's the wrong way around to put it. I didn't realise that you could have a silent generator. What is your feeling about this, please?
Thank you. So I would agree that there is no such thing as a silent generator. What we need to ensure is that the generator is operated in such a manner that it's not inaudible in any premises adjoining the square. Again, I think what we need to do is to give Mr Scales the opportunity to demonstrate he can operate in such a way. It may be that the generator can't be used in the future, and that will mean providing mains electricity supply to the vehicle, which Mr Scales then has the opportunity over the next few months to organise.
Thank you.
Councillor Thomas.
Can I ask you please just to say a word or two about monitoring and enforcement, please?
The Council's general approach to monitoring and enforcement is that we respond to complaints. But in addition, we do operate what we call a noise patrol over the summer months. And therefore, if members are minded to approve this consent, then I'll ensure that officers do visit this location on the days that the van is operating, just to check there aren't any issues. In addition, if there are complaints from residents, then we'll investigate and undertake further visits.
And just for clarification, the proposal is that the licence would be granted for 1 year only, and if there were problems, obviously, it would come back to this panel and we could consider the matter as things stood then.
Yes, the recommendation is that the consent is granted to the 31st of March 2023. If there are problems with the way that the trading operates, then it will be referred back to this panel if a further application is made. If there are no problems, then I'd recommend that it is delegated to officers to grant a further consent for a further year.
Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments, councillors? No. Louise, do we need to retire to consider? Councillors, do you feel a need to retire?
Maybe briefly.
Yes, we will retire to consider our decision, and we'll be back in within 10 minutes. Yes? Thank you. Yes, this is the General Licensing Panel, and we resume our hearing. The officer's recommendation, councillors, is that it be resolved that, first, a consent to trade subject to the conditions set out in Appendices B and C be issued to the applicant, and secondly, that the Head of Environmental Services, Licensing and Community Safety be granted delegated authority to issue further consents if no complaints are received. And councillors, the appendices are attached to the report and are publicly available, so I won't read them all out. Do we have a proposer to agree that resolution?
We propose that we accept the recommendation.
Proposed by Councillor Thomas.
And I'd like to second. Thank you.
And seconded by Councillor Madeley. Those in favour? That is unanimous. And so that the licence is granted subject to those conditions. Well, thank you very much indeed, Mr. Parker Harding. Thank you. Thank you, Louise. I shall now close this meeting of the panel. And that is closed.